This is a video on replacing the primary blower motor of a Weathermaker 8000 TS by Carrier. This furnace is about 18 years old. It was installed in 2001. It's a mid-efficiency furnace and it's installed here in Canada, in Calgary. The motor started making noise about 3 weeks ago, and I'll demonstrate kind of what that noise sounds like. And so I've known this day was coming, and so I preemptively ordered the fan. Of course, the fan that's in there, I didn't get a change in time, and it quit working on a night when it was minus 30 Celsius. So great timing. That's how these things work, but at least I saw this coming.
So you're going to want to start by pulling off both of the panels, the top one which accesses the burners and the bottom one which accesses the motor. If you're wondering what kind of furnace you have, there's a little placard here on the inside on the left that'll give you your details so you can find the appropriate motor once you get to that point. Now here there's a little switch. You have to keep this pressed down or the motor won't try to start. So I suggest just putting a piece of tape over it. So you're getting an idea of what my motor sounds like here. Obviously it's not sounding great. It's sounded this way for some time. So this motor is clearly done and it's going to need some work. Okay, so the first thing to pulling it out is to remove the control board. It's basically just hung in here with one screw for the top and a little clip that you can slide it out of. Obviously you do want to have your breaker off at this point if you're starting to play with the electronics. Just notice the wires in here. When you order your new motor, if you're like me, you got to take it off Amazon, you're going to want to be mindful of which wires are the right ones, and of course where they go into the control board. Now I'm going to pull the motor out. Again, it's pretty simple. It's held in with a screw on the left side and another screw on the right side. In the back it actually is just hung into place and you just slide it in. So it's actually really easy to slide the motor out once you remove the two screws. So we got it in the shop now. First things first, I'm going to have to remove the old motor. There's just a little tie wrap here which is holding the wires together. And there's also a small grounding strap on the side. Just pull out the 3 bolts that hold the motor into place, centered in there. The motor's mounted on little rubber feet, so you want to hang on to those. And here's the grounding strap, you just have to pull off there. Here on the other side, you just have to remove the actual fan from the keyed shaft on the motor. I'm just using a crescent wrench for this. This seemed easier at the time. And now we can pull the motor entirely free from the fan housing. And you notice the fan is just kind of laying around in there. After that, you don't need to take it out, you can just leave it there. And here I'm just taking the connectors off the capacitor. You can replace this capacitor, and in fact I recommend it, especially for that first start of your motor, because that's going to be the biggest draw on a new motor. Now I'm removing the strap that holds the feet to the motor, so just the mounting brackets. And you'll need a wrench as well as a driver to take it off. It just slides off like that, and then the feet go everywhere. So if you take a look at my motor, it's an S336 by GE. I actually really struggled to find this particular motor, but you found suitable replacements. The one that I found here was actually made in Mexico, And I think the original is made in Mexico as well. Yeah, you can see it there. But you'll notice all the wires are the same. So that was really what I looked at when I ordered this off of Amazon. And there it says, yeah, assembled in Mexico. So I felt it would be a similar, if not even a better motor, but you can look at it, they're practically the same. Notice how the new one here spins completely freely and the old one doesn't even spin at all. So that tells me this is definitely the source of my problem. So now I'll start by putting the bracket and the feet back onto the new motor. Now as you do these feet, you need to be mindful that they all need to be aligned and equal, such that the motor points straight, because even if these are off slightly, your motor shaft is not going to be perpendicular to your fan housing, and it's going to be crooked. I ended up fixing this a few different times, so the video looks like it was smooth sailing, but it wasn't. So make sure that you get this thing lined up completely straight, and you'll test it once you get it in there. And then we'll just clamp it down here. Now it's time to put the motor back into the fan housing. Try and get that thing centered, and then stick the motor through. You'll notice there are these sort of special screws. They got the little, I guess, washer you would call it, around those. And of course we got the rubber feet as well to insulate from the vibration. So just kind of get these started, get them in a rough location. Okay, now I'm reattaching the grounding strap to the fan housing again. And invert the motor, and now you can see the shaft. So one thing you'll note on this particular motor, the shaft is longer than the old one. That's okay. It can be quite a bit longer. You don't need to cut it off. Now you just got to get it lined up so that the fan is orbiting in the center. And again, you want to make sure that shaft is completely perpendicular and centered. Otherwise, you're going to get a fan motor that wobbles. Also note that the fan shaft is keyed. Pardon me, the motor shaft is keyed, and so you have to make sure you tighten that down the set screw on the flat part of the shaft. I didn't do that the first time and it wobbled again, so make sure you do that right and tighten it down. So once that's set up, I just spun the fan just to see if air was actually coming out, and it was, so that made me happy. And there you can see it's fairly well balanced and it's not touching on either side. And last but not least, we're going to rehook up the capacitor. And now here we go, shoving the motor back in. So we basically just do the same thing we did to get it out in reverse. Again, it slides into the back, and there's going to be two little grooves that the sheet metal slides into. And then suck it up against the top. And then insert the sheet metal screws. This part actually took me about 15 minutes because I kept dropping and losing the screws. So the video makes it look far better than it actually was. Wow, that actually looked painless. Alright. Now we're going to do the control board. And remember, we're going to plug the wires in back the way we took them off because this motor was identical in the end, which works out perfectly for me. That's what I'd look for if you can't find your exact part numbers. Make sure the colors of the wires match up. They seem to be standardized. I'm no HVAC repairman, but that's my recommendation to you. And once it's all hooked back up, again we slide it in and we insert the screw from the top. with it from the top. There we go. And you'll also want to bundle up your wires, zip tie them as necessary so that they're not rubbing on any of the sharp metal. And again, we're going to have to tape off that switch so you can actually see the motor operating. Flip the breaker back on. And now we're ready for action. Fan's turned on. And the furnace engages. And you'll notice there's no more growling, there's no more shaking, it's just happy. So there you go. That's how to replace the blower motor in your Carrier Weathermaker.